Friday, April 26th, everyone. Hunter here at Weather on the Go, and in today's weather forecast, a multi-day severe weather outbreak continues through this weekend through Sunday, April the 28th, bringing the potential for strong tornadoes, large to very large hail, and strong damaging winds. And we're going to break down the timing of the severe weather setups and also the storm risks and timing of the storms, as well as we do go through the forecast, and also looking at the long-range update into early May. We'll give you all the details that you need to know in today's weather forecast. So thank you all for joining here on this beautiful Friday morning. Hope everybody has a great week so far. Again, if you are new here to the channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below for detailed but accurate weather forecasts moving forward throughout the entirety of 2024. Also, be sure to press the like button, the thumbs up button down below. It helps out more than you know. So let's get into the weather forecast here and look at the storm reports that were sent in to the Storm Prediction Center yesterday. And it was a busy day as well. Unexpectedly, actually, a tornado occurred in northern Utah yesterday, actually out west. So definitely a very interesting look there. We also had a tornado up here into southeast Wyoming, even into northeast Colorado and northwest Kansas. So kind of scattered about. We had four confirmed tornadoes at least from yesterday, several hail reports, several wind reports, for a total so far of 65 severe weather reports all told from Thursday, April the 25th. So we're going to add on to that as we go through the next few days. We have our first trough, our first low pressure system, bringing all of the severe weather up into central portions of Nebraska near the Lincoln region as a 990 millibar low here for today. As we go into tonight, that low pressure system is tracking northeastward into southwestern Minnesota up to a 993 millibar low as we go into tonight. And we're going to keep an eye on it. As it tracks from central Nebraska into southwestern Minnesota, it's going to drag that dry line a little bit further to the northeast as well. And that triple point is going to set up here across eastern Nebraska, southwestern and western Iowa, into northeastern portions of Kansas and northwestern Missouri. This includes Omaha, stretching over here to Des Moines, and all the way down towards Kansas City and St. Joseph here in Missouri. A large broad brush, marginal and slight risk extending back down here into the Arklatex and Southern Plains region. We'll be keeping an eye on that. Those are level 1 and level 2 out of 5s across those regions in the dark green and yellow shaded colors. By far, the biggest threat is going to be large to very large hail. Where you see these hatched marks or these dashed lines, that's where we have the threat for significant hail over 2 inches in diameter. That is essentially hen egg size or larger across portions of eastern Nebraska, western and southwest Iowa, getting into eastern Kansas, western Missouri. That's stretches down here into eastern Oklahoma, northeast Texas, and far northwestern Arkansas here as well. We're also keeping an eye on the triple point today as well, because near the triple point, you have the warm front lifting north, you have the low pressure system track, and then you also have the dry line cold front combination here that could enhance some of the wind shear up in this environment. So if you live in eastern Nebraska, western and southwestern Iowa, northeast Kansas into northwest Missouri, essentially Omaha eastward to Des Moines, and then south-southwestbound into Kansas City and St. Joseph, Missouri, I want you guys to be on high alert for the potential for strong tornadoes as we go through the day and into tonight, and then a larger broad brush 2 and 5% shading in the green and brown shaded color respectively, further to the south here again into the Arklatex and into the southern plains, stretching back towards the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We also have a large broad brushed area of some damaging winds, especially in the yellow shaded color from Iowa, Nebraska southward all the way to northeast Texas. Could be seeing wind gusts in excess of 60 miles per hour in this environment. Let's look at the setup for severe weather here today. We actually have the warm front lifting further north towards Des Moines here and toward the Davenport Quad Cities region. In Iowa, that is going to lift the low 60s dew points all the way up there into central Iowa. We got the dry line. While not as sharp as yesterday, it is still there with the dry line here with those 60s dew points ahead of that. So those warm, moist, and unstable air will lead to instability here. Those instability values will be climbing into the 2000s, perhaps even 3000s joules per kilogram. That is moderate to strong instability here. And we have a pretty strong low-level jet over 60 knots here, maxing out close to 65 knots, especially up here into Iowa near that triple point of where that warm front, low pressure storm track, and that dry line cold front combination comes together there into southwestern Iowa here. So we're going to keep an eye on that as we go through the day. Looking at the significant tornado parameter space, you can see pretty high values stretching from Des Moines all the way southwestward through the Kansas City metro, going through the portions of Springfield, Missouri, all the way down here towards Tulsa, into the Ardmore region of Oklahoma, and then down toward the Dallas-Fort Worth area, even seeing some pretty high values. Remember, a value greater than 1 is significant here, so that is something to keep an eye on through the day. Let's look at the timing for the storms. This morning, we have some ongoing convection across the Midwest, down here into portions of the southern plains. The southernmost storms may be pretty severe here across portions of Oklahoma and southern Missouri this morning, as more instability already building and readily available down there. So some damaging winds and hail, maybe an isolated tornado threat already this morning ongoing down there. As we go into the afternoon, notice here those storms kind of dwindle further east, still seeing some heavy rain for places like Chicago, South Bend and Gary, Indiana, down here through Peoria, Illinois, St. Louis. That could stretch down toward Fort Smith, Arkansas there, and towards the Red River Valley down towards Oklahoma and Texas. Those storms, while they could be strong, mainly going to be some heavy rain producers, some hail at times, maybe some gusty winds. But the area we're really keeping an eye on is where that storm track will be. So from central Nebraska to southwestern Minnesota, that's this low pressure storm track. And as it tracks towards that region, we're going to see an arcing band of intense supercells developing, likely in eastern Nebraska sometime about around early to mid-afternoon, and those storms will have the wind shear available to produce some strong tornadoes, very large hail, and some strong damaging winds over 60 miles per hour. Those will be widely scattered. They'll move through the Hawkeye state of Iowa and even northern Missouri as well as we go through the evening hours with an attendant tornado threat. We'll keep an eye on that through the evening. Remember, not everybody will see severe weather today. This will be more of a scattered mode of severe weather, but if you get under one of those storms, they could be very severe, so we'll keep an eye on that. And then going into early Saturday morning, the lingering convection will be moving over there in towards Lake Michigan, into Indiana, into eastern Illinois, and even portions of downstate Missouri as a weakening trend as we go into Saturday morning, as we lose the daytime instability. Now going into Saturday, we have a new trough. This is a different storm system. This is a bigger trough here entering into New Mexico and West Texas. This trough will be ejecting into the plain states very similarly to the one that ejected into the plains Thursday into Friday, and this is also going to produce more widespread severe weather. We have a severe risk essentially from the Canadian-U.S. border up here into Michigan and the upper peninsula of Michigan, all the way down to the Texas-Mexico border here into portions of southwest Texas. So a very large real estate of severe weather potential. And the greatest severe weather potential is in this orange shaded color. This is a level 3 out of 5, an enhanced risk stretching again from southern and southwest Iowa into northwest Missouri, southeastern Nebraska into east central Kansas, central Oklahoma, and into northwest Texas. This does include areas like Kansas City, down there into Topeka and Wichita, stretching down here into Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and Norman, moving further southwest, Lawton and Fort Sill, and this includes more of the Wichita Falls region as we go in through the day on Saturday tomorrow. And this is also going to be a threat for some large to very large hail. Look at the large area here across the plain states, stretching up there into the Midwest into Iowa for some hailstones over 2 inches in diameter. That is hen egg size or larger. We also have an even larger zone of tornado potential, literally from the Canadian-U.S. border all the way southward into the Texas-Mexico border, with at least a 2% shading in the green shaded color of tornadoes. Brown shaded color, that's a 5% chance. And then in the yellow here, that's our greatest concern of some tornadoes, but also strong tornadoes, where you see these hatch marks from Kansas City back through Topeka, Wichita, stretching down there into Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Moore, Oklahoma, and towards the Norman region, Lawton, Fort Sill, and then down into Wichita Falls as we go through the day on Saturday. And then we have a large broad brushed area with a 15% chance of 60+ mile-an-hour winds in the yellow. The red shaded color, that is a little bit higher of a chance, kind of enhanced wind potential there from southern Iowa stretching to northwest Texas on Saturday. So we'll keep an eye on that. Let's look at the setup for Saturday. Warm front kind of stalling up here to the north. South of that, dew points, folks, going to be well into the 60s, if not 70s. And potentially those 70s dew points getting all the way up into central Illinois, central Missouri, and eastern portions of Kansas on Saturday. Dry line setup yet again here across the plains. Look at the available instability here on the maps as we go into Saturday afternoon and evening. This is like a summertime type of instability reservoir where we have over 2,000, if not over 3,000 joules per kilogram. And there may even be pockets of locally 4,000 joules per kilogram. Once you get up toward 4,000 joules per kilogram of instability, or CAPE, your convective available potential energy, that's when you start talking about extreme, almost off the charts levels of energy for storms to work with. And Saturday afternoon, already a very strong low-level jet, especially down here into northwest Missouri, into east central Kansas, and down into central Oklahoma. Already over 50 to 55 knots. That will strengthen further Saturday evening as a nocturnal low-level jet strengthens to around 65 knots. This will enhance some of the wind shear in the low levels of the atmosphere as we go into Saturday evening. Let's look at the significant tornado parameter space for Saturday afternoon. Already high values peaking up around 12s, 13s down here in southern Kansas into north central and central Oklahoma here. Remember, again, a value greater than 1 is significant, and look at the widespread real estate of those values greater than 1, and actually really greater than 5s here across portions of Kansas, into Missouri, into portions of Oklahoma and Texas. Those values actually peak almost to 20s out of 10s as we go into Saturday evening. So this is a significant atmosphere. So going into Saturday morning, not a lot of convection here ongoing, and this is actually very important because previous day convection, if it were to be ongoing, we would have question marks about the instability values, how much energy these storms would have to work with. But since there's not, the Saturday could be a very significant day. We could already see a couple storms firing back here into western, southwest Oklahoma from, say, Elk City, down there towards portions of Altus and in towards the Lawton, Fort Sill region. Those areas could already be seeing some larger hail, some gusty winds, and an isolated tornado threat Saturday morning. Going into Saturday afternoon, we could have either new supercells developing up near the warm front here towards the Iowa-Missouri border and in toward portions of Kansas City, and then the dry line becoming active with supercells as well up and down the dry line from southeast Nebraska, east central Kansas into central Oklahoma, and perhaps north Texas Saturday afternoon with all hazards. Strong tornadoes will be on the table, and then quick upscale growth of storms Saturday evening into the Saturday night time frame as that nocturnal low-level jet really strengthens. That will help organize those storms with the low-level shear, and we'll start to see more of a QLCS line of storms with embedded supercells that could still produce some strong tornadoes even after dark. So that is something to keep an eye on through Saturday evening and Saturday night. It doesn't stop there either. As we go into Sunday, we have another slight risk of severe weather from the Midwest, southern and southeast Iowa into west central Illinois, down through most of the state of Missouri, including the Ozarks, eastern Kansas, eastern Oklahoma, much of central and western Arkansas, getting into north central and northeast Texas, and extreme northwestern Louisiana, including some areas like Ottumwa, Iowa, back here into Macomb, into Kansas City metro again, Springfield, Jefferson City, and Columbia, Missouri, Branson, Missouri, down here into Little Rock, Fayetteville, and Fort Smith, into the Tulsa region, into the Stigler and McAllister, Oklahoma region, into Texarkana, Shreveport, and that stretches back into the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Paris, Texas, and Tyler, Texas, as we go through the day on Sunday. Again, Sunday setup, we have a large warm sector, dew points again, advecting northward out of the Gulf of Mexico into the 60s, a little bit weaker of an instability reservoir. We don't have as strong of values here on Sunday, probably because of the atmosphere being worked over from Saturday and Saturday night storms, but nonetheless, still enough to support severe weather here, 1,000 to 2,000 joules per kilogram. That's still weak to moderate instability there. We do have still a strong low-level jet, though, so Sunday is nothing to laugh at. We still have a 65 millibar 65 knot rather, a low-level jet across the Midwest down into the Arklatex region. So something to keep an eye on here with the low-level shear helping to organize some of these storms. There could be some ongoing convection Sunday morning from Iowa here up to Wisconsin, even up toward the Madison region. We'll be keeping an eye on you folks, and then all the way southwestward towards the Arklatex and the southern plains. These would mainly be heavy rain and hail producers. I think as we go into Sunday afternoon, the more focused corridor of severe weather will be across the Arklatex with more of an MCS, a mesoscale convective system developing here, but further to the north, some isolated and scattered activity could develop from Iowa back into Kansas and Missouri. That will push east toward the Illinois Valley as we go into Sunday evening. Those storms may weaken to the north as the instability gets pinched off a little bit quicker, but the instability that hangs on stronger further south into the Arklatex here may be able to lead to more severe weather Sunday evening, deeper into the evening and into the night time frame. Let's look at Monday early next work week. You can see that low will be finally up there into the UP of Michigan, and yes, there's still enough cold air that yes, southern Manitoba, central Ontario could have a little bit of a wintry mix to some wet snowflakes up there on Monday. No snow for the US though, unless you live in the Pacific Northwest up here towards the Washington State, the Cascades region, into the outside the Portland area per se, into northern Idaho, western Montana. We know it's still cold up there in those higher elevations in the Pacific Northwest, but our main system down here watching maybe some isolated severe weather from the mid and lower Mississippi Valley from say Paducah, Kentucky, down through Memphis and even the Lake Charles region. We'll watch that for Monday. Then as we go into Tuesday, more of a diffuse cold front moving through portions of the Appalachians into the southeast. This will weaken, probably not seeing a lot of severe weather on Tuesday to end the month, but definitely watching that. If any severe weather occurs, it'll be down here towards Texas, portions of the coastal Texas, coastal Louisiana near the Gulf Coast, where the instability will be a little bit stronger on Tuesday. Nonetheless, this is going to produce healthy rains and beneficial rains as we go through the 1st of May on Wednesday, May 1st. Look at the Mississippi Valley here, the Midwest, the upper Midwest, a lot of these areas, northeastern Iowa, in fact, still has that extreme drought ongoing. We're going to chip away at that with some widespread heavy rain here in some areas, again, in that region, almost 3 inches worth of rain into northeast Iowa in those areas with extreme drought. And even though you have a drought, you can still have runoff, especially if a lot of this comes down in a short amount of time. So watch out for some flash flooding there. And then further south, where we have repeated rounds of storms and some real strong storms across the Arklatex region, we have to keep an eye on some enhanced rainfall amounts, potentially over 6 inches between now and Wednesday, May 1st. Now, speaking of May, as we go into the first 5 days or so of the month, from Wednesday, May 1st through the following weekend, Sunday, May 5th, look at downstream here. Most of the U.S., 80% of us will see above normal temperatures from the Rockies eastward all the way to the eastern seaboard. The west coast of the U.S. from Washington State, Oregon, and down into the Sacramento Valley in coastal California will be below normal with our temperature anomalies there. As more troughs come in, that could lead to more active weather for the Pacific Northwest and the western U.S., but also across the plains and Midwest again. This could set up another round of some severe weather as we go in towards later next work week and the following weekend towards the 4th and 5th of May. And then some drier weather further east across portions of the mid-Atlantic coast, towards the southeast coast and the Gulf Coast here as well, especially the closer to Florida you get some drier weather during the first 5 days of May. And you can see where the heaviest rainfall will be during that time frame from the central plains over to the mid-Missouri Valley on southward toward the southern plains and the Arklatex. It looks like Texas will remain very wet there, especially into northern and central Texas for the first 5 days of the month of May. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Make sure to have multiple ways to receive severe weather watches and warnings, as very dangerous weather is going to be ongoing today, tomorrow on your Saturday, and on Sunday. 3 more days of severe weather. A NOAA weather radio is a very good tool to use for severe weather, and make sure that you have that on and ready to go. And other tools, make sure to charge your devices, your smartphones, your laptops, your tablets, anything you have as well. So it definitely helps out as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to press this like button and subscribe down below, and I'll see you all in the next video.